Welcome to Body Conscious Pilates. My name is Allison Orlina, and thank you for joining me for a warm-up to my series on abdominal discomfort, pain, and guarding. And so I wanted to demonstrate today's class in my pajamas to show that even if you're not decked out for a full workout, if you can make it to the floor, whether you're mat, carpet, or a plush rug, this routine will be something that you can do as soon as you make it there. You don't have to have gone for a walk. You don't have to have warmed up any further. And this sequence can be for you on a bad day when you're feeling a lot of discomfort, maybe you're in pain, but it can also be a warm-up for a good day when then you want to add more exercise to it to build up some strength on those good days. So if you can make it to the floor, please join me for a routine that will help open up the chest and get some movement in the hips, two areas that tend to fold up and get small when we're not feeling well in the abdomen. We'll also work on getting some movement between our thorax, our chest area, and our pelvis, and loosen up this area that tends to also get small and tight when we're not feeling well, when we're doubled over, and we're just holding on until that pain subsides. But hopefully this sequence might help some of that pain subside, or at least give you some new sensations in the body and a chance to adjust to discomfort and maybe that lower level pain that will then get you up and moving some more if possible. So please join me for a warm-up to the series on abdominal discomfort, pain, and guarding, and use this any day to either get ready for more exercise or to have at least gotten you moving on a day when that might be all that you can do. So we are going to start on the floor. We will not be standing. We're going to start in a casual mermaid. So if you've taken a Pilates class before, this little position here where you angle the shins out to one side is your mermaid position. We're just going to use this to get started on the floor, but then we're promptly going to swing our arms over that top shin, press into our hands in order to move back into our all fours position, which is very good when you are having a day with abdominal pain, because now positioning the full torso between the shoulders and the hips gives you lots of space to work with when you're uncomfortable here. And so we're going to start with traditional cat and cow. You've probably seen these moves before, but you're evenly situated and balanced between your wrists and your knees, and you're just going to lift and flex the spine toward the ceiling, and then drop the chest between the shoulders and extend the spine. This is extension. So let's do our cat, where we flex the spine. We hollow out under us as if we're folding over a big ball. And then we drop the chest. Tailbone goes toward the ceiling. Face lifts toward the seam where the ceiling and the wall meet. And what we're doing here is giving our abdomen, especially the space between our ribs and our hip points, a chance to move. If you're having discomfort while doing cat here and cow, you make your movement smaller. Maybe just start out small, just giving that spine a little bit of flexion and extension. Now we're going to do some lateral flexion, and I find that it helps to do this if you pick one foot up off the floor. Now you're on one knee while the other shin is long along the floor, and you're going to wag that shin across the body, and you're going to turn to look at your toe. Now putting the foot up in the air like this gives you a little more range of motion in the hip and frees up your spine to flex side to side a little more. So I call this wag the shin. This is a common exercise for some lateral mobility in the spine. And I find that when you lift this foot, you get a little more movement than if you keep it on the floor and do these where you try to look at your tailbone. So now let's lift the other foot. We're going to wag that shin across the body, and we're going to look at our big toe. And then we're going to wag the other way and look at our pinky toe. And we're going to wag this across and wag out to the side. And one more time, across and out to the side. Look at the pinky toe. Come back to all fours, put that shin down. Now we're going to protract and retract the shoulder blades. So for retraction, you drop the chest between the shoulders, but don't bend the elbows, and bring the shoulder blades toward each other on the back. Now push the chest away from the floor. Again, you're keeping your arms straight. You're letting the shoulder blades glide over the back of those ribs as they come together in retraction. And then as they separate and glide down the ribs, and then retract, bring the chest down between your straight arms, and then protract. You're not flexing at the spine here, you're just pushing the back of the ribs toward the ceiling while keeping the spine fairly level. Drop and protract, push up. Now we're going to come back to a neutral spine in between the hands and the feet, and we're going to just do a little all fours rocking here. So you're just going to press the tailbone away from the heels of the hands, and then you're going to let yourself lean in and toward your hands, your palms here. And we're going to begin this because one of the classes that we're going to work on later is about abdominal bracing. So when we're in abdominal pain, we lose a little bit of that confidence in stiffening up the muscles of our core. And so we will do some more abdominal mobility, but what's also important to regain, especially when you're having a good day, is some of that resistance to movement that the core is for. And so now, as you rock back and forth between the heels of your hands and your knees, try to find a place where you're resisting in both directions. You start to push away from the heels of your hands, but then your hamstrings resist and push you back toward the heels of your hands. And you're going to get a little bit of front to back resistance between the heels of your hands and your knees. So find a place here where you're not just collapsing in your shoulders, but resisting between the hands and the knees. Now we're going to take one foot back, tuck the toes, and just place that long leg into the floor on the ball of the foot. And now let's try the other side. Again, with a little resistance between the heels of your hands and your knees. Now tuck the toes, extend the other leg back. Press the ball of the foot of that straight leg into the floor. Let's do that again. Tuck the toes, straight leg. Now really push down into the floor. It doesn't have to be extreme, but try to push the ball of that foot down into the floor. And you'll develop some of that core stiffening that's important to regain. Bend that knee, return that shin to the floor. Tuck the toes, straighten the other leg, and then push the ball of the foot into the floor. You want to look out and down. You don't want to drop the head or crane it up. You want to draw a triangle with your eyes down to the ground. Now we're going to lift the leg the next time. So tuck the toes, straighten the leg, press that leg down into the floor, but once you have the strength in the back of that leg, then lift it off the floor, level with the back of the hip. Return that ball of foot to floor. Bring the knee down, other side. Tuck the toes, straighten the leg, press the ball of the foot into the floor. But now that you have strength in the back of the leg, lift it. We're going to do one more each side. This is so important for waking up the muscles not only of the core, but of the back body, the back of the pelvis, your glutes, and your hamstrings, which tend to get turned off during times where we're lying in bed, doubled over, folding forward on ourselves. Return that ball of foot to the floor. Now we're going to swivel down to one hip, and we're going to lie down. And we're going to have our hand out front, long from the shoulder. And we're going to do just a really gentle twist. This isn't going to be a firm, extreme twist. This is going to be more like rolling the body side to side, with the hips going first and the shoulders following. So your top hand is over your bottom hand. Your knees are over each other, and you're just going to paint or pet your bottom forearm with your top hand. You're going to drag that hand all the way across your chest, reach out toward the other side, and now curl the fingers in of the hand you left behind, and now paint it across your chest. Open your top knee, open your bottom knee, fold that knee over the one that went first, and you're on the other side. Now again, let's paint our bottom forearm. Very gentle. We're going to start to reach, open that top knee. Let the bottom knee now follow and come to the top. Curl the fingers in of the far arm and paint it down and over the hand. Let's do that one more time each way. Drag and paint your top hand over your bottom forearm. Reach for the other side. Now open that top knee. Bring the trailing leg. Curl your fingers. Paint across your chest and out over your bottom palm. And now we're going to paint and open and trail. And now we're going to paint across our chest. And we're going to pause here, and we're going to do a little more thoracic mobility by taking this top hand, and we're going to draw the elbow back, but we're going to keep our knees pointed forward. And we're going to pull the elbow back as if we're drawing a bow, but we're going to pause here. We're not going to follow this time. And now we're going to return that hand over top the other one. And we're going to draw that bow, pulling the elbow back. And we're going to let the elbow open up our chest, but we're going to stay where we are. And we're going to paint back down that forearm one more time, drawing the bow, pulling back. Now paint out over the hand, and now we're going to go to the other side. And we're going to paint and reach, and this time go ahead and open that top leg and switch to the other side. And I'm going to face away from the camera so that you can see my elbow pull back from this top hand. And I look back, but I leave my knees where they are. This is just opening the chest and getting a little bit of stretch in this top armpit area. Again, an area that tends to get closed up when we're folding over ourselves. Let's pull that elbow back one more time. And now we're going to come back to the other side. We're going to paint across ourselves. We're going to come to this side, and we're going to come up, press up onto our elbow. So now we have our elbow just a little bit superior to our armpit, which means toward the head of our armpit, or right under, whatever's comfortable for you. We are going to lift these obliques with our top hand. So you're going to sag down. Go ahead and let yourself sag down into your ribs, your bottom ribs. Now take this top arm under, put your hand under those bottom ribs and lift them. We're not going to go up. We're not going to suspend yet. This is just a warm-up. But one of the things that tends to happen, again, when we're feeling bad in the abdomen, is that we're not keeping these trunk muscles mobile. And so here we're just getting our obliques used to engaging and lifting the rib cage away from the floor. And we're using this top hand as reinforcement for that to give us a little bit of confidence. And so we're lifting, and you'll feel your obliques under your hand turn on. And we're coming back down. And now we're going to go all the way back down to the floor. So your bottom arm, I want long out under your head. Your top arm is going to fold over, palm on the floor, fingers pointed toward the other hand or toward the crown of your head. Now we're going to practice folding up and transitioning some of the weight into our hands to then lift up to sitting. So we're going to push into this top hand. We're going to lift off the floor. We're going to bring our bottom hand with us. We're going to fold it over and place it right where the top hand is. Then we're going to transition into that hand and lift the rest of the way up. The reason that this is included is to get us to go from just turning on those obliques to getting the rest of the way up to sitting. So again, what we're going to do is press into this top hand. We're going to start to lift off the floor. We're going to bring that bottom hand with us and fold it over at the elbow. We're going to put the palms toward the same spot on the floor, and we're going to share the distribution of weight and support between our hands. So this is a good way to get up when you just feel like you couldn't possibly use your abdominals to do it all. So we're not. We're going to let our hands help us. We're going to press into that top hand, start to come up, bring that far hand with you, fold it over at the elbow, put that palm in the same vicinity as the other one, and this will help us to get to sitting and give you a way to engage the abdominals without making them do it all. Okay, this time when we come up, we're going to swing the legs out in front of us and switch to the other side. We're going to do that oblique reinforcement first. So we're on our elbow with our palm out on the floor, fingers pointing away from our face, out into space. And I like to put my elbow, again, just a little superior to my armpit, but it can be right under if that's more comfortable for you. Then you take your top hand, you put it under those bottom ribs. Go ahead and let your ribs sag down into your hand. And now we're just going to give a little bit of reinforcement to those obliques. And we're going to push away from the floor, and we're going to level out our torso here. Sag down into that hand, hammock out in your shoulder. Now lift those obliques away from the floor. We're not pressing all the way up onto the shins here, although that is a terrific exercise for hip stability and core stiffening. But right now we're just warming up and trying to get a little movement back into the rib cage muscles. And we're going to drop down. One more time, lift those ribs away from the floor. Your hand and your oblique are telling your body what to do. Going to drop down, and then this time you're going to extend the hand all the way out, palm toward the ceiling, out from your ear, under your head. Take your top hand, place it on the floor in front of you with the fingers pointing toward the crown of your head or toward that other hand. And now you're going to press into the floor with that top hand, but you're also going to sit up, bring the other hand with you from the elbow, and transfer the weight between your palms. Now you're going to put most of the weight back into that top hand as you open and fold back down with the bottom hand. Now you're going to press into the top hand, bring that far hand with you, fold at the elbow, share the weight between your palms, come back down, redistribute the weight to that top palm, and lie the rest of the way down. Let's do 2 more of these. Top palm, press into it, fold that bottom arm over, put the palms close to each other. You'll notice that the fingertips are pointing in different directions. And now share the weight as you go back down. And we're going to do one more of these and remain sitting. We're going to come up, so here we are, and now we're just going to straighten our legs. We're going to sit up, legs wide, so wider than the outside of your hips. We're sitting up as tall as is possible. Now, if you've been doubled over in discomfort or pain for quite some time, this might be hard to do. So you shorten the resistance from the legs by bending at the knees. However much you need to bend in order to sit up is fine, because we're not working on a stretch here. We're going to work on some very uppermost mobility by doing a very small spine stretch forward. If you practice Pilates, this is where you use eccentrically engaged abs to reach out and forward, but we're going to do a very small version today where we're just going to nod the chin toward the chest, drop the angle of the eyes, and as you do, these hands that are out long in front of you are going to start to point toward the floor and just touch the fingertips to the floor and come back up. Now what you want to work on here is as you drop the gaze, drop the chin, and these fingertips of straight arms start to come down, don't collapse in the lumbar spine. You want to try to keep this part of your back lifted, and you want to aim for the floor with these uppermost vertebrae. Touch, come back up. So sit up as strong as you can in the lower back. Drop the gaze, drop the chin, drop the fingertips of your straight arms to the floor, touch, and come back up. If you have not done full roll-ups in a while, it can be hard to get this flexion, that's the movement that we're making with our vertebrae right now, in the spine. And so we're just going to keep it small and keep it at the top of the spinal column. Come back up, and now we are going to roll down to do some work lying supine, lying on our backs. Now, for those of you who are having pelvic pain right now, and I know this is true for me, rocking through those sitting bones can be quite uncomfortable. So if you need to go back to your side, that's fine, and I'll show you how to do that now. So if you're having a good day, you might want to rock over those sitting bones, your ischias, and just roll down with confidence. If you're not having a good day and you need some help getting down there, then go ahead and again, swing those palms over to one side of the body, swing your knees, and lie down, and then roll the rest of the way. So again, using your upper body to help support you as you go to the floor. We're going to lie supine, that means on our backs. Both knees bent, feet flat on the floor. And then we're going to take our palms and lay them on the floor, but with bent elbows. And I like this position because I feel like it gives me more strength to push into the floor with as we circle and then drop and raise one leg. So both knees bent, feet into the floor. Choose a leg that's going to come in toward the chest and then point at the ceiling. That means the other leg is your stance leg, your stance foot. And it is going to be working also by pushing lightly into the floor while you lift the other one. So think about which leg is going to lift and which one is going to push into the floor. So I'm going to lift my right leg first. That means that before I even move, I'm going to press the sole of my left foot into the floor first. So I'm going to press down with my left sole and then bring the knee of my free leg in toward the chest. And then I'm going to straighten the knee as much as I can. Now, some of you will be able to achieve a full extension of the knee. Some of you won't, and that's fine, because what we're looking at doing here is mobilizing the hip. So now you have your foot pointed at the ceiling with either a bent knee or a straight knee. The other leg, your stance leg, is still pushing into the floor. And we're going to do single leg circles or draw dinner plates on the ceiling. So with your free leg, draw a platter or a dinner plate on the ceiling. And while you're doing this, of course, your stance foot is pushing lightly into the floor to help stabilize your core. So you're drawing your dinner plates here, and you're getting stabilizing support from the opposite abdominals and hip, as well as your upper arms pressing into the floor. Now let's go the other way. So the hips get very tight when we've had a series of days where we've been in bed a lot, or we've wanted to go to bed as soon as we get home. And so the hip gets closed up as we're lying on our sides in those protective positions. And so here we're just going to get a little mobility in the hip. We'll do other exercises later to strengthen the hip, but right now we're just going to try to get some movement in it. Let's pause. Again, with your fleshy part, your forearms and your upper arms pressing into the floor and your stance foot pushing into the floor. Now let's lower this straight leg and lift it. And you're pushing lightly into the floor with your stance foot, both your arms. If you have a bent knee, again, that's fine. What we're working on here is challenging the core. As we drop that foot, the core will engage and hold us together as the torque from our long leg adds weight here at the bottom of the movement. And then again, your stance foot pushes into the floor to help give you the strength to pull that back up. Now let's bend that knee, put that foot on the floor, and we're going to change sides. So before you bring your free leg in toward the chest, push down lightly into the floor with your new stance foot. So I'm going to push into the floor and now bring my knee toward my chest. I'm going to straighten this new free leg as much as I can and point my toes or the ball of my foot toward the ceiling. You could also do this with a flexed foot, but I prefer one that's either in plantar flexion or point. And now we're going to draw those dinner plates. I don't care which way you start drawing your dinner plate. The important thing here is mobility in the hip. Now this side for me is actually weaker on this stance side. I have a harder time controlling the movement in the core and the pelvis when my left leg is in the air. Now let's go the other way. I'm drawing what support I can in stabilizing my core, again by pushing my stance foot into the floor, pushing my arms lightly into the floor, and engaging these long abdominals between my hips and my ribs as I do. Those are your obliques and your transverse abdominis. Let's pause. Now we're going to drop and lift the leg. As we do, as we lower, you're going to feel that torque add. You're also going to want to push into the floor with that stance foot, especially as you initiate the return to pointing at the ceiling. So drop, feel your abdominals working, that stance foot working, and then push into the floor as you bring your free leg to point at the ceiling. Drop, core, stance foot pushes, lift. Let's do a few more of these. And then we're going to roll and push back up to sitting. So a couple more where we're opening the hip up and then returning to hip flexion, opening the hip up, returning to hip flexion. Now we're going to bend the knee, return that foot to the floor, and you're going to pick one side, roll to it. And you can use the little movement that we learned earlier where you push into the floor with one palm, push up, use the other palm to finish the movement to come to sitting. Now we're going to go ahead and sit either cross-legged, in a half lotus position if that's something that you have available to you or that you practice. Or you can even sit in a butterfly position. However, I am not as big a fan of this position because I feel like the resistance created between the folded legs and the pelvis causes us to sink back in the lower back. You can also, at this point, put a wedge, a pillow underneath your sitting bones to open that angle at the hip and give you a little more range of motion. I'm going to demonstrate a chest opener, a gentle chest opener, that's also good for just feeling relaxed and bringing you back to yourself after we've been working on something where we're focused on one particular area of the body. Now we're going to move through an arc. It's going to have a little dance quality to it. So we're sitting cross-legged or in our lotus. And we're going to put our fingertips right out in front of us, out from the pubic bone. We're going to drop that head, nod our gaze toward the floor, push the fingertips away from us. Now part the fingertips like you're opening a dramatic stage curtain. You're going to lift the chest through as you continue to trace the fingertips back as far as you can reach them as you retract the shoulder blades. Now plant your fingertips like little tent poles into the floor and push the chest up and forward to the ceiling. Open the throat. Now return the gaze back level and drag the fingertips back around the body and closed. Gaze comes out over the fingertips on the floor. Push the fingertips away, part the curtain. Lift the chest through. Trace the fingertips back as far as they will go. Retract the shoulder blades. Plant those fingertips. And then push with the strength of your arms and lift the chest. Open the throat. Look up. And now as you bring your gaze back level, drag the fingertips around the knees, close up the curtain in front of you. Gaze is now down and over the fingertips. And let's push and part one more time. Lifting the chest through our now open curtain. Plant those fingertips, press into the floor, lift the chest, open the throat, eyes to the sky. Bring the chin down, the gaze back level, and bring the fingertips around and put the hands on the knees. Now we're going to work out our neck a little bit because, again, as we're closed up on the front of the body, that ability to open up and have some strength here between the chin and the suprasternal notch, that also diminishes. So we're just going to do some good classic chin pushes. If you haven't done these in a while, you haven't seen it before, you can start by putting your fingers right on the front of your chin. And you're going to push your chin back. So I'm going to stop talking so I can demonstrate. And come forward. I'm going to show you what that looks like in profile. Put your fingertips on your chin and you're pushing your chin straight back, not up or down. It's going to feel like you're pulling your chin into your neck. This is an important exercise for working out the extensors on the back of the neck. So we're going to bring the chin straight back and release, and the natural weight of the head will release that contraction and allow the skull to balance slightly forward, which is where the weight of our skull tends to be anyway. So we're going to pull the chin back, release, pull the chin back, and release. Now we're going to add an extension to it. If this doesn't feel comfortable for you, you don't have to, but it's a good position from which to add extension when you're ready. So we're going to pull the chin back, extend the neck, eyes to the ceiling, bring that chin down where it's pushed in, and release. Pull the chin back, extend the neck, look at the ceiling, level your gaze, pull that chin back, and release. Now we're going to do a little bit of a trapezius stretch. Again, when we're folded over, hunched up, closing this clavicle, then our trapezius get tight. Now that's true for anybody, but this is a good movement to add to help you release some of that tension, or that, you know, open up the angle between the side of the face and the shoulder. So what I like to do here is, again, I'm sitting cross-legged. I'm going to open my fingertips wide like we were doing for our chest push through. But now I'm going to turn the palms up and make a nice wide Y. This is kind of a celebratory position. Now pick one hand and you're going to start to point at the back of your neck with your fingers. Now take the other hand, palm down. And as you drop that palm, look out over the fingers of the hand coming toward the floor. And now lift that hand again, make your nice big Y, go the other way. So you're going to fold the opposite palm in this time, and you're going to point your fingertips at the back of your shoulders. And now you're going to turn the palm down of the other arm, drop it, and look out over the fingertips of the hand coming toward the floor. Rotate palm to ceiling, open to your nice big Y. Let's point at the back of our neck. We're folding up at the elbow. Then our fingertips are going to point at the back, somewhere in our cervical spine. We're going to rotate the palm down of the free arm, the extended arm, drop it, look out over the fingertips. Your gaze is down, you're drawing a triangle with your eyes. Raise that palm, nice celebratory open Y here. Point at the back of your neck. Rotate palm down. Look out over the fingertips as you drop that hand, straight arm. Rotate the palm toward the ceiling, raise it. Nice big open Y, lift the chest a little bit, and bring the palms down. And that is our warm-up for whether we want to continue with exercise, if we're feeling up to that, or we just wanted to bring a little bit more movement to the areas of the body that may not be in pain themselves, but get closed up and underused when we are. So I hope you enjoyed this class and that you will continue to join me for others in the series on abdominal discomfort, pain, and guarding. Thank you for joining me.